Hello, my name is Wade Nomura, and this is Rotary Serving Our Community. One of the interesting trips that I've recently made to Rotary Headquarters was that with the Pets Alliance, where we take a look at training presidents. And on this trip specific, I was able to catch up to John Hewko, who is the General Secretary of Rotary International and has recently been also designated as the CEO, or Chief Operating Officer. His role, his responsibility, believe it or not, is to oversee all operations of Rotary. And it's quite huge. It's a large commitment for him and his time. He has an avid or strong background in business. He came from the business sector and actually walked away from a very lucrative position, what he was doing before, to take over and work with Rotary and Rotary Foundation. He oversees both of those, and along with the operations at Evanston itself. So his day-to-day work is, I couldn't imagine. It's got to be tremendous. It's huge. And what he sees, he oversees, the changes he has made is only because he's a very inspirational person, a man that works hard. He is innovative, has a lot of things, and you will find also that he is an avid bicycle rider. So because of that, his time commitment, what he does, I would imagine he's probably only sleeping about 2 to 3 hours a day. He's a Rotarian, and this video will actually talk to a lot about what he does and what he's done. And with that, let's go ahead and cut into the video, this interview with John Hewko, where I met with him in his office. Okay, John, thank you very much for offering to do this part of the interview with me.
Yeah.
We're here to get to know you, so tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the General Secretary and CEO of Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation. I've been in this job for 8 years. I'm starting my 9th year. It's been an absolutely extraordinary experience. Prior to that, I had a fairly varied and diverse career. I was a lawyer by training, and I was a partner in a major international law firm for many years. I practiced mostly in Eastern Europe, in Moscow, Ukraine, and then the Czech Republic. And after that, I went into the Bush administration. I had a senior political position at a new foreign assistance agency that President Bush W had created, called the Millennium Challenge Corporation. It was a government agency designed to deliver U.S. foreign assistance in a new and interesting way. And of course, when President Obama won the election in 2008, I was a political appointee, so I was, changing the guard at the agency. And then I went and spent some time at a think tank in Washington. I also taught at Georgetown Law School. And then this Rotary opportunity came along in 2011. Very fortunate to be here.
Great. So what made you decide on it? Was it the offer, or was it something you felt you could do for the organization?
Well, it's an interesting story, because I'd come out of the government, and I was sort of took a few years. Again, was at the Carnegie Endowment, trying to figure out what to do next. And my father is a very avid reader of the Rotarian magazine. And he was reading the magazine one day, and he saw that there was a notice that Rotary was looking for a new general secretary. And so he kind of pulled this out of the magazine, ripped it out, and then wrote across, in half English, half Ukrainian, "John, you should really consider this. I think you have the skill set." And he mailed it to me. And I looked at it, and I saw that Korn Ferry was the firm that Rotary was using as a search firm, and we had worked very closely with Korn Ferry when I was in the government. So I called the head of the D.C. office, and I said, "Charlie, I just heard about this, something I should be interested in." He said, "Absolutely, and I hadn't thought about you." And so I threw my hat in the ring, and the rest is history. So I learned actually 2 very valuable lessons from that, Wade. One is that very good things happen when you read the Rotarian magazine.
Good point.
And the second is always listen to your father. So
those are both excellent.
In fact, I keep that. If you look on my wall there, you can see that's the actual letter that my father mailed me.
Very nice.
And that led to the job. So it was a little bit of serendipity, and once I started looking into the opportunity, it was just fantastic.
Now, were you a Rotarian before that time?
I had been a Rotarian in the early 90s in Ukraine. I was living in Ukraine from 1991 to 1996. And so I was my father's club in Michigan was one of the sponsoring clubs for the first Rotary Club in Ukraine after the fall of the Soviet Union. And so I was living in Ukraine at the time, and he sort of got me involved in Rotary. So can you give us a hand with helping establish this club? And so I turned out to be, I was actually a charter member
Okay.
of that club in Kiev.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
outstanding. And what drew you to the organization? Was it your father's influence or something you saw in the organization itself?
Well, I had seen my father had been a Rotarian for many years, and I'd seen the incredible work that Rotary was doing, the passion of the Rotarians. My experience in Kiev was very positive as a Rotarian, and so what I really loved about it was that it was an organization that you could join to make a difference in your community, but also to make a difference globally with say, for example, polio eradication.
Right. True.
And for me, this whole polio effort is really extraordinary. I mean, it's a legacy that we're going to leave for mankind for as long as we live on this earth, and that for me is to be able to play a tiny part.
That's true.
In making that happen for me was a very, very compelling and very moving and motivating factor.
Got it. Now that you're General Secretary, some of the experiences that you had in the past, example, and the audience I'm sure would be curious about this, were you involved very much with international projects, things like that with Rotary before that time? Have you done some in your lifetime?
I wasn't involved before. Obviously now I'm involved
Yeah.
in the sense that the Secretary, we oversee the giving of grants for many Rotarian projects. But what got me interested in the international development space was the experience I had at the Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Okay.
This was a government agency designed to provide U.S. Foreign assistance in a very new way. I was the chief United States negotiator for these assistance agreements that we were entering into with our partner countries, and during my tenure, 5.5 years there, I moved about $6.3 billion to U.S. development assistance to developing countries. And so when I came out of the government, I didn't want to go back to practicing law. Sort of been there, done that. I had really enjoyed the kind of this doing good and through international development projects. And so when my father sent me this advertisement from the Rotarian magazine, I said, wow, here I can combine my managerial skills of running a large organization and at the same time continue active in this international development project space. And Rotary kind of brought both of those elements together.
Good. Now, a lot of us that have been involved with Rotary for a long time, and I'm sure this happened to you, experience what we call a Rotary Moment, something where you just get hooked with what you're doing for it. Have you experienced that?
My Rotary Moment came very early in my tenure. I went out to India to participate in a NID, a National Immunization Day.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the moment came when my wife Marga and I were in a slum in Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
in a small room with just a table and desk and chairs, and these mothers were coming in with their children to receive the polio vaccination, the oral vaccine.
Right.
And as I started vaccinating the first few children coming through, I looked out the door and I saw 2 kids with polio kind of dragging themselves along the street. And it really hit me at that point that here I am with these 2 small drops. I'm preventing that child from ever having to experience what these other children that hadn't been vaccinated do. And it really, at that point, it became really emotional for me. It wasn't just a cause or some academic exercise, or we're going to eradicate a disease. It became very real.
Yeah.
And I think once it becomes real and very emotional, that's when you realize truly what a great impact you're having through your work. And so that was really my Rotary Moment. And I realized, my God, this is happening all over the place. And Rotarians, hundreds and thousands of Rotarians, spent their time and energy not only raising money and advocating, but coming out to the field and vaccinating these children. And that's when I really appreciated the extraordinary work that Rotary does.
Wow. That is a good one. That's a good reason. Actually, there's quite a few people in Rotary that actually experienced a lot of that on an NID, National Immunization Day. So tell me a little bit about family, your family. You're a family man.
Yeah.
And
I have my wife Margarita is we call her Marga.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Argentina. She's a very active Rotarian. She's a member of Chicago One,
Okay.
And is actually the president nominee.
Oh, wow.
Chicago
Congratulations
One. So
to
really,
her.
really excited about that. She's very active, loves Rotary. Has got at any given time 2, 3, 4 global grants up in the air, and of course she accompanies me on many of the trips and is really a great ambassador for Rotary, very passionate about Rotary. And then I have a daughter, a 26-year-old daughter who's currently living in Ukraine.
Okay.
She's in the fashion industry and works for an outfit that represents Ukrainian fashion designers. And she's going to be in September going to Paris to do a master's in in fashion management.
Good for her, and
So-
good for you.
so
Congratulations to you.
So, and we live here, of course, in Evanston, which is where Rotary headquarters are. Very much
good.
enjoy living here.
Good. I want to touch on this real quickly before we run out of a lot of time on that. That is the polio ride. You're an avid bicycle rider.
I am.
Still doing a lot of that. Are you planning on doing the tour to Tucson?
I am, and it's interesting how that story came about. I am a very avid cyclist, and I was at our Bangkok convention in 2012, and I was on a water taxi and ran into a group of Rotarians from Tucson.
Okay.
And we started talking, and they said, "Oh, you're an avid cyclist," and I said, "I am." And they said, "Well, you should consider coming out to Tucson and helping us raise money for polio through our annual ride that we do." And there's a ride called the El Tour de Tucson. It's one of the largest perimeter rides in the country. Somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 cyclists participate in this ride. And the Rotarians in Tucson had started using this as a vehicle for raising money for polio. And they were raising $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And they said, "Can you give us a hand and come out and ride and help us raise money?" So I came back to Evanston, and I sort of activated our fundraising apparatus here. And we started promoting this, ride then polio. First year I think we raised like $250.
Mm-hmm.
The next year exponentially more and more and more. And then with the 2-to-1 Gates match, the numbers started getting pretty large. And I think through this ride with the Gates match over the last 8 years, we've raised about $50 million
Wow.
for polio. So it's
Wow.
something I do every year. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
and we usually have about 100 and 110 Rotarians from around the world that come and ride with us.
Right.
But we, through this effort, have raised a lot of money for polio. So if there's any Rotarians out there,
There you go.
avid
Make
cyclists,
that plug.
please join us in Tucson the
That-
weekend before,
Very
Saturday
good.
before Thanksgiving.
It is a great event. I had
Yeah.
the opportunity to actually cover that for one of the shows, and
Okay.
of course it was a great one. They did a
Exactly.
good job of that one.
Can't beat the weather in Tucson.
You
in
can't beat the
November.
weather, no, and the people in the place, they are very
Yeah.
inclusive.
Yeah, and the Rotarians in Arizona are great, and they
They
do a
are.
great job with the event. So,
They
yeah.
really do. So, tell me a little bit about this job that you have as General Secretary. Do you travel a lot? Does it require a lot of international correspondence, work travel, or?
Well, our organization is quintessentially international. 70% of our Rotarians are now outside of North America.
Okay.
And in fact, most of our membership growth is happening outside of North America. Officially, Rotary works, I think, in 8 or 9 languages. We have Rotarian magazine plus our regional magazines. I think they cover about 32 languages. I personally speak 5 languages.
Wow.
So the internationality is obviously no secret here. The
Right.
essence of Rotary.
True.
I do travel, not all the time, but I'd say certainly way less than, let's say, the president
Right.
would be traveling. But sure, I do travel quite a bit, and I think it's and really the more I get out there and the more I've been able to see what Rotary as an organization, what Rotarians do, the more I'm simply in awe of our organization. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary, the breadth and scope of what Rotary does. But it is, it's an international job. I represent an international membership, and that's what makes the job so interesting and exciting.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad you do that. Most people kind of see it as an opportunity to travel. However, you become the eyes of Rotary and see what's needed out there, the support. You become a support staff. You know where and how to then integrate plans in
Right.
the future of how to make the support affordable and how it works well. So I think that's key to your job. Your
Well, and I think
success.
there's sort of 2 aspects to the extent I do travel. One is to better understand what's going on in the Rotary world. So we as a secretary can more effectively support, as you said, support the Rotarians. And then when I go to these various events, whether it's the convention or an institute or a district conference, it's for me a huge learning experience to see what are some of the, and Rotarians are not shy at all about expressing their
that's true.
opinions. And so
Very true.
and I hear and I welcome that, and
Yeah.
so that's a very important piece of it. And the other is really to communicate to the Rotarians what we're doing at the Secretary, what we're doing to support Rotarians around the world, what are the major initiatives that we're involved in, how are their dues being spent. So it's a dual listening, teaching role that I think I'm able to provide when I'm out of the building.
I think too a lot of the Rotarians, especially here in the United States, what they see is a club. They don't, and then maybe a little bit of district, and maybe slightly beyond that, through the form of maybe an international
Right.
convention or something. They don't understand or see the enormity that organization actually has, as in your situation. So knowing that, how do you
try and relate that information down to the club level, to the membership
Yeah.
level? Is that something you do?
Well, first of all, maybe just to clarify for our listeners that may not be aware of what the Secretariat is.
Mhm.
You know, our Rotary World Headquarters are here in Evanston. In fact, the building that we're interviewing in, Rotary owns it. It's an 18-story building.
Right.
We use half for our own purposes, and the other half we lease out. So it's one of the premier office buildings on the North Shore. We have about 570 staff here in Evanston, and another 200 in our 7 international offices around the world. So the Secretary really is the support network for the Rotarians, and our professional staff is here to work with Rotarians. And part of our job is to communicate down
Right.
and help communicate, provide the tools to Rotarians up and down the chain. And so we've obviously got our a very extensive communications department,
Right.
the website, our various publications, various training manuals, the very support that we provide to Rotarians, both on the Rotary International side and on the Rotary Foundation side. Processing grant requests, chartering clubs, collecting dues, all that sort of stuff we do here at the Secretariat. We take board policy and then translate it into
True.
concrete action.
True. And how many employees do we have actually with Rotary International?
As I said, we have about 575 located here in
Okay.
Evanston, and then we have another 200 in our 7 Rotary offices outside the United States. We have an office in Australia, we have one in Japan, we have in Korea, Brazil, Zurich, and I think in India.
Okay.
And then also we have a back office in Pune, India operations. So we have
Okay.
7 offices around the world.
Wow, that'll keep you busy just doing that part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me, what are the challenges you see in your job specific? The challenges moving forward with an organization, how you improve it, the visions that you see, and how you're going to accomplish those
Yeah.
goals that you made for yourself. as
Well,
a
you know,
General
this
Secretary.
is, Wade, this is an incredible time to be a Rotarian because we're really at the cusp of eradicating polio, which, as I talked about earlier, is going to, leave a legacy for mankind as long as we live. We're in this year. We're fully launching our new strategic plan,
Right.
and that plan is going to really take our organization into the next 10, 20, 30 years. Very, very exciting time. We're launching new initiatives in terms of the foundation, our types of grant models we're offering to the Rotarians. We're doing an awful lot of work in terms of improving the IT resources that we provide to Rotarians, improving our website, providing tools for Rotarians, making it easier for them to give to the foundation, easier to carry out the business of Rotary. And so it's a very exciting time. I'm very proud to be part of that process, and that's really our job, Wade, is to work with the board and the volunteer leadership
Right.
in Rotary, and to really move our organization forward. We do have some challenges, particularly in North America. Membership is a challenge. We're losing members in North America. We're doing extremely well in Asia, as an example. And so I think a big focus going forward, starting this year and moving forward, will be how do we begin to grow Rotary in North America, but all throughout the world, using new and innovative club models. That's going to be a huge focus going forward. How can we grow Rotary using new, innovative club models that are perhaps more attractive to a demographic that's not as attractive as we'd like it to be to our current models?
Oh, that would be a good way to
Yeah.
go forward with it. So when you talk about the membership, are we talking about specific differences in club structure and in membership? You said, I believe we have a global initiative for global membership. as
Well, one of the
opportunities.
aspects of the strategic plan is to begin thinking about developing channels into Rotary that don't necessarily involve joining a Rotary club.
Okay.
So we're going to be piloting an idea that you become not a member of a Rotary club, but a member of Rotary International.
Okay.
You become a global participant or a global member. And then the question, of course, is what's going to be the value proposition? Why would somebody want to become a global participant in Rotary versus joining a Rotary club? That's just one example
Yeah.
of some of the new and innovative things we're going to be doing to try to move our organization even further into the future.
And how would you say the Rotary International partners in with the Rotary Foundation in achieving that? Has that become something that would work hand in hand, or is there going to be continue to be a difference in one or the other?
No, the way I look at it is it's one Rotary. We have the Rotary Foundation and we have Rotary, but they're they have to work hand in glove.
Correct.
It's the membership that provides the vast majority of the contributions to the Rotary
Right.
Foundation.
Right.
It's the Rotary Foundation grants and programs that allow, in many cases, Rotarians to do these projects.
Correct.
That
Yeah.
we were talking about. And so and the good thing is that you have the foundation and Rotary International and the Secretariat, all three groups working as one united team. That's a very important concept. It's happening, and that's what we really need to continue to do in order to really move Rotary writ large forward.
Okay. Oh, that's very good. Now, do you see the projects that we do through the foundation as kind of a membership tool also for bringing people in, new people? Have you looked at that as a possibility? Because that serves I would say the need for service in people and individuals.
Well, absolutely. In fact, when we rolled out the new grant model, global grant model, several years ago, we had a number of different things we were hoping to achieve with them. One was to encourage clubs and districts to band together and do projects that are larger, more scalable, more measurable, more impactful. In other words, get more bang for the Rotary buck. But a secondary benefit is if you start doing these larger, more visible projects, it helps on your public relations. And the better your public relations, the more you can attract members. The more members we bring in, the more potential donors we have for the foundation. So you create
That circle.
this positive, continuous circle. And so it's all interrelated. It's all interrelated. So yes, to the extent that we can successfully implement that model and do great projects, obviously it's got to help on membership and PR because people are going to be attracted to, oh wow, Rotary does phenomenal things. I want to be part of that.
Right.
And that's what we hope to partially, in addition to the good work that the projects themselves do, to use that as an attraction for new membership.
Great. Now, we recently just had the Council on Legislation.
Right.
And tell me a little bit about those enactments that passed forward and how you see those things fitting into, I would say, the strategic plan and those initiatives that we have moving forward.
Well, the last two councils, we had one in 16 and
Correct.
just recently in April of 19, I think were two phenomenal councils. The 16 council passed a number of enactments that allow clubs to have considerable more flexibility in terms of how they organize meetings, membership categories, etc. So it's kind of opened the door for fashioning, again, these new innovative club models and giving clubs a lot of flexibility. Now, if you want to continue with the traditional model and it's working well, carry on. But now you have the opportunity to really think out of the box and be creative. There is no Rotary police, Wade. For me, what's important
That's
is,
true.
does it work? Does it work?
Yeah.
And on the one hand, and this last council, I thought, which was really exciting, is that it has to do with Rotaract. Only worldwide about 5% of our Rotaractors become Rotarians, meaning 95% do not. And these are young men and women who are passionate about Rotary. Ideals of Rotary are active, and yet we lose the vast majority of them. So how do we facilitate that glide path to make have Rotary and Rotaract work more closely together? And so the council took a very important first step by making Rotaract clubs now members of Rotary International, because Rotary International is an association of Rotary clubs. And now Rotary International is an association of Rotaract clubs and Rotary clubs. So this means that Rotaract is no longer a program of Rotary. It's an integral part of Rotary. Now, Rotaractors have not become Rotarians as a result of that action. But what it has done is sent a message to Rotaractors that you are now an integral part of Rotary International as our Rotary clubs. And that's just the first of many steps we need to do to bridge that gap between Rotary and Rotaract and facilitate the transition of Rotaractors to Rotarians over time. And I think it starts by jointly doing projects.
Agreed. Yeah.
Do projects together that breaks down those generational gaps and facilitates that glide path from Rotaract to Rotary.
I do see that, and great points on that one. The implementation of the plan that we had that was just passed at the Council on Legislation, do you see that as being a challenge? Is it 6 months, 1 year?
Which point are you talking
The conversion of Rotaract into integrating into Rotary itself, because we're looking at the possibility of what the dues structure would be, what the membership would include in that one, because it'll be a slightly different model.
Yeah, that has not yet been resolved. I mean, the first step was really to recognize Rotaract as part of Rotary International. Step one of many steps.
Sure.
And so it's not a 6-month process, it's also not a 60-year process. I see this being a, 4, 5, 6, 7 year process.
Okay.
As we continue to build on that, continue to address the issue of dues, address the issue of
Correct.
a whole slew of things, participation of Rotaractors
Right.
in global grants. I mean, there's a whole slew of issues that we need to now begin addressing and attacking to better integrate Rotaract into Rotary.
Okay, good, good. Now, as we, another
But at the end of the day, it all begins and ends at the club level. So
It
the way
does,
the way
very
we can
true.
immediately start is by not only having Rotary clubs forming Rotaract clubs, but having Rotarians begin working more aggressively with their Rotaractors on global grants, on projects, on a whole slew, on mentoring. Now, that doesn't, there's no need for any further enactments or anything coming from RI for that. It really, the clubs are fully empowered now to more actively and aggressively engage with their Rotaract clubs.
Great, great. One last question here. Hopefully it's not going to be a hard one for you.
Yeah.
What have you enjoyed most out of being the General Secretary of Rotary?
Well, I mean, I have a phenomenal staff colleagues that I work with. I mean, it's been just we really have a world-class secretary and staff here, and I've really enjoyed working with my colleagues. I've enjoyed tremendously the interaction I've had with Rotarians. I think the thing I've most enjoyed is really seeing the enormous scope and depth and impact that Rotary makes.
Sure.
I mean, to know that I'm a small part, a tiny part of this extraordinary organization is, it's incredible. Think about it, Wade. The youth exchange programs that we run, RILA, all Rotaract, Interact, all the projects that we do, global grants that we do, all the local projects that the Rotary clubs do, the mentoring, the bringing people together, creating goodwill. It's not just a slogan in Rotary. We actually make it happen. That's been the most enjoyable piece, to see the impact that this organization is having on people's lives and on the world. That's been great.
I see that as being one great motivator and why you're such a
Yeah.
good worker, hard working at what you do. Well, John, thank you very much for your time. I
Wade,
appreciate that very much.
Thanks for
again,
having me. Appreciate it.
for all the outstanding work that you're doing
Thank
for
you.
Rotary. We definitely appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you'll see, as you've seen, John Hewko is one outstanding person. What he's done for Rotary, what he's continued to do for Rotary is something I would say is extremely impressive. He's on the 18th floor. He sits right across the hallway from the president and president-elect. And because of that, he's in constant contact, knowing exactly what's going on worldwide. His job does not have him traveling a heck of a lot. He spends most of his time at headquarters, where the presidents themselves do almost exclusively traveling. So because of that, he does have time to take a look at that. As you heard, the office itself is headquarters for Rotary International in Evanston. Most of the staff that we have working there actually are answering to him, and because of that, he knows exactly what's going on. If you ever have a chance, go ahead and head to Evanston, meet him, tell John that Wade sent you, because he is a very nice man. You'll enjoy time spent with him. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next time.